You know, the haunting of John's crimes, that'll never go away. It's a part of my life. As much as I tried to forget it, it took me a long time to heal. For 30 years, I never spoke about it. And now, I think it's time. There's so much to still tell, and a lot of truths to come out that have never been spoken. There was a lot of people that didn't even know that I had a brother, and they didn't even know that he was John Wayne Gacy.
Investigators have started to dismantle Gacy's house and garage as they continue to search for other bodies in this quiet suburban neighborhood.
How can you do that? How can any human being do that? A lot of people say, how could you still have loved him? It's because I didn't know. There was evil there that was hidden in a side that he never showed. I would have never expected the boy in this picture to have done what he did 15 years later. I would have never expected it. You know, John and I had a unique childhood. Mom always had John watch out for me, being the youngest, so he always had to take me everywhere. I was like his sidekick. I was like the tag-along sister. I called him my protector because he was always there, kind of watching over me. As we got older as teenagers, we bonded and we were friends as well as brother and sister. But I've never seen the killer part of him that did what he did. All I remember is how he was growing up. Why did he set his mind into killing? John wasn't like the other boys in the neighborhood. They were into football in the winter and baseball and all the different sports types things. He liked to plant flowers. He liked to sing. I don't know very many of the boys in the neighborhood that would get in the kitchen and make grilled cheese sandwiches and try to bake cookies. It kind of made my dad upset because he wanted him to be a manly man, and he thought my brother was not a manly man. Dad would come home from work.
Good Lord. What are you doing, boy?
Trying to bake us a pie.
If John was baking or cooking or planting marigolds, then the razor strap came out.
Come here, boy.
Come on, he is just trying to
Don't
please you.
stick up for it. I said come here.
It was scary because if he was drunk, we never knew how hard that beating was going to be.
What?
But John didn't go to defend himself at all. It's like he was like a punching bag. He didn't fight back. He didn't try to fight off the spanking. He just took it.
Next time you ought to go outside and play some football.
He always went up to his room and closed the door. What he was doing, I have no idea, but he wouldn't talk to anybody afterwards. This is a picture of a fishing trip that John went on with my dad. And I see the look on John's face, the scowl. I saw that look a lot at the table in the kitchen. When he was getting yelled at, he would just make that face and just kind of look down. doesn't like changing sheets and stuff. So I would clean his room, dust and whatever, and then he'd give me like a little allowance for doing it. And I went in there to do that, and I noticed kind of a silky colored material in his bed, and when I pulled the sheets back, it ended up being underpants. Ladies' silk underwear. It was just kind of mystified me that he had pants in his bedroom that were women's.
Mom? What is it, honey?
He used to like silk panties, and he used to take the silk panties and rub them with his fingers. He just liked the feel of the silk. And I said, that's just a strange thing. Why would he take them and hide underwear?
You gotta promise me, really promise me, okay, that you're not gonna talk to your father about this. I promise.
She said, keep it to yourself. She said, I'll handle it.
I will get rid of these.
John and my mom had a very, very close relationship. She went to talk to him about it. I did not know what she said to him, but John wasn't real happy with me that I went to Mom with it. He said I should have come to him with it. He was very upset with me. In the weeks to follow, when I changed bedding, there was no more pants to be found. So, whatever it was, ended. John and Dad had an argument, and one day John didn't come home. He'd gone off to work, and he never showed back. And it was real shocking that after 3 days, they couldn't find him.
What are you so worked up about, Marion?
You could have a little empathy here. You know, he's your son, too.
I was scared, because that's not like John. John was usually pretty much like clockwork. As days went on, I became more concerned because I wondered if he was dead. He was actually ended up gone for almost 3 months, and they found him in Las Vegas, working in a mortuary. I believe that he stayed another couple of months before he came back home. It was a different John. It was totally a different John. He wasn't the brother I grew up with.
I couldn't stomach that myself. You didn't have a hard time with it at all?
No, it was just a job.
We asked him about the mortuary work, and he started telling Mom and I what he did, and it just kind of creeped me out. He was telling us stories about, the dead body and whatever, and it was like, whoa.
But surely you didn't have to touch the bodies, no, did you?
We're all gonna die someday.
He did the cleanup of the up and seeing all these dead people and it not phasing him at all. It was really a bizarre thing, but he said it never bothered him at all.
Anyway, we're really happy you're home, John.
When he came back from Vegas, it's like he wanted a different life, and he didn't share as many things with me as he had before. Before we went a lot of places together. He no longer invited me to go eat, have a pizza. We just kind of parted until we both got married. We were friends, but it was different. It was just totally different. It wasn't the same relationship.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with me?
John, can you just calm down? It wasn't like he was just angry and yelling. He was trying to hit him. He was like acting like a crazy man. Over the years, years, and it seemed like the older he started getting, I think whatever was transpiring when he was younger, I think was transforming as he got older. You take these and you look at that and you see how sad his face is. The face told it all the time with him. My uncle needed to move, and so I got my husband-to-be and my brother to help get the heavy stuff moved.
So after the wedding, you're just gonna what? Have kids, get old, wait for your days to run out?
John was kind of kidding us about getting married, and Ron made a crack about my mom.
Come on, you think Karen would let that happen?
Yeah, well.
She's no pushover like your mother, John.
John took offense to it, and he blew up.
What'd you just say about my mom?
I just said that.
No, I heard what you said.
John said something about don't say that about my mother.
Come on, John, he was kidding.
I don't care what he was trying to do. He doesn't get to talk about mom that way.
Hey, take it easy.
You want me to take it easy?
John!
My mother and I'll slap you!
He was swearing. He was acting like a crazy man. It wasn't like he was just angry and yelling. He was trying to hit him.
What's wrong with me?
That wasn't John. John didn't hit people.
You know about my mother.
He started pounding on the car and beating on the roof and on the window of the car. I don't know what's wrong with you. I said, I don't know why you're acting this way. It's just, it was crazy. And Ron slowly moved away because I told Ron, just move. He's away from the car. Move. Just get out of here. For a couple of days, we didn't even speak. He goes to work at Nunbush Shoes. And he's there for a couple of years. And then he meets Marlon. Marlon is his first wife. Him and Marlon had a little boy. And about 2 years later, I think they had a little girl. And they moved into Iowa. John, you could tell that he was settled. He was happy. I believe he really loved her. And he was proud to be a father. He was loving. It was just a new chapter for John. He was just a different person. I get a phone call from my mom one day, and she tells me that my brother's been arrested in Iowa, and he's in jail. And accused of sodomy of 2 boys. The judge said because of the age of the victims, he was going to send out a message that wasn't going to be tolerated. And he sentenced him, I believe, to 10 years in prison. We didn't get to talk to him until after the trial was over.
Look, I know this looks bad. Okay, I was only doing my duties as a member.
What do you mean, duties?
Well, I mean,
He told the whole family it was a political thing. John joined the JC chapter. I believe it's the Junior Chamber of Commerce. And he was explaining to us that the job was to bring men into the JCs. He was the recruitment person. And one of the things they did was they'd have these parties with booze and pornographic movies.
So what about the other members? Why won't they speak up?
it's politics. And these guys just don't want to go down with me.
Charges, John.
He had showed the boys the movie, but all the other stuff didn't happen.
Mom, I can't believe you're buying any of this garbage.
He said I'm not a homosexual. He was very convincing. When he talked about something, he could convince you. There's just something about him that he was very believable.
Don't worry, John. We're going to do everything in our power to get you out. Okay, son? There
were strings pulled. It was was John reinventing himself again. He was a leader, and I'm really believing that that's why they paroled him so early.
This one is Pogo. This is my uncle in full clown dress. You know, it used to be a good memory. Now, it makes me wonder, what's he hiding behind the makeup? The first time that I actually did get to see my uncle in his clown costume, it was for the St. Patrick's Day Parade in Chicago.
Hiya, kids! My name's Pogo, the silly dancing clown.
He was at a function afterwards. He was all in full attire, clown makeup, everything like that. And he was smiling, and he made a good clown. He seemed happy, and he was waving at people, still giving candy.
Do you kids want a balloon?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just... Uh-oh.
It was the first time we'd seen him in his makeup, and you couldn't even recognize him. I never really put a lot of thought as it being like an evil thing. It was just something that made him happy.
Smile for the camera, Pogo.
Now it's like, what were you trying to hide? He was like trying to be a normal part of society, but really had another life going on.
A clown as being a bad thing. I do know there's people that are afraid of clowns for some reason. And I guess knowing that he had been convicted of sodomy, they tried to look at him as dressing up maybe to fool children. I saw him with my own children, with his children, my sister's children. I never saw him do anything sinister. Everybody wants to put something cynical about it. And I saw nothing cynical. John really did love kids. The first time I saw the house that John and Mom moved into, my first reaction was the smell. There was a smell as you walked in the house and through the house. Just had this old, musty smell.
What is that awful smell? I'm not sure. I don't even know what you're talking. It's making me nauseous. How can you stand it?
The house wasn't built on a slab. It was dirt underneath it, and if you don't cover that, it smells. My mom didn't have any clue that it had a smell.
John, have you tried to figure out where the stench is coming from?
Oh, that, yeah, I looked into that.
When I asked him about the smell, he said it was coming from the earth underneath. There was a crawl space under the house. Very small opening to get down. And there was a ladder that went down. Wasn't very deep. That was just where the odor was coming from.
I learned the first time it rained that the ground gets wet under there, and the crawl space it puts out a musty odor. There was always a musty odor in that house.
And this just clicked when I heard his statement. I remember him saying in Cook County Jail, I should have cemented the crawl space. I don't know why I didn't cement the crawl space. And I looked at him and I said, what would that have solved? And he didn't answer me. He started started a painting and decorating business. Later, it went into construction, and he started hiring young men to work for him. I noticed that he was shorter in temper.
This isn't healthy, John. You're killing yourself.
He was complaining about the long hours, and if you want it done right, you've got to do it yourself.
You aren't helping yourself by hiring these boys.
They're not boys. They are young men.
I said, why don't you hire adults? Why are you hiring kids? I said, they're not dependable. Why do you hire kids? He said, because they work for cheaper labor. I said, you really need to hire older people. And he said, I'll run my business the way I want to run my business.
I'm sure there are other ways.
Look, why don't you just mind your own business, Karen? Huh?
And then there was a couple of strange incidents that had happened. There was a couple of boys that ended up gone missing. And they were two people that actually worked for him. Sometimes he's out till 2, 3 in the morning. You wonder, what was he doing till 3 o'clock in the morning? Well, John had got a new car, but on the driver's side, there was one of these hand lights that I know that I've seen on police cars. And I said, what's that for? And he said, well, I have to use it sometimes when I'm out in the neighborhood to shine up on the house to see the addresses. I thought that was odd because most time people go to work during the daytime. I learned later that he was using it to pretend that he was a police officer. That supposedly he even had a badge to kind of lure a prospect to his car. I didn't at the time tie this together at all. It didn't make sense to me, but you know, John sometimes didn't make sense with some of the things he did, so I just, I just blew it off. Time was running short. I get the phone call, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I know when the phone rings at that time, it cannot be good news.
John?
He said there are some police at my door. They want to talk to me.
That was Christmas, and I want to say that was at my Uncle John's house, and that was definitely a happy memory. Memories like this, those are the memories that I choose to what he turned into.
Weekend of Thanksgiving when John was there was a sense of urgency in everything he was doing. He wasn't agitated, but it was like he had a sense of time was running short.
John, you really didn't have to do this, you know?
I know. I really wanted to. I love you guys.
He wanted to buy things for me, wanted to buy things for the kids when he was kind of insistent. And so we had a great time shopping, but you could tell there was something on his mind. He was charging everything, wasn't paying cash. I didn't know what was going on with him.
You sure everything's okay?
Karen, everything is fine.
You sure?
And I tried to get him just, how's things going, the business going well, stuff like that. But he didn't open up to anything at all.
Here. I gotta take off anyway. We'll talk soon, yeah?
And when he got ready to leave, he really squeezed and hugged me.
I love you guys. Don't you ever forget that, okay?
Usually John would just give me a kiss and leave, but this time he gave me a hug, and he kind of held on a little bit longer, not just a peck at the door, I didn't understand where this was coming from. I was just concerned that something wasn't right. Now I know why he did it. I think that he knew that someone was catching on. In December 1978, John called, and when he was talking to us on the phone, there was somebody at the door. And he said, there are some police at my door. They want to talk to me. There was a kid at the drugstore that went missing one day when I had been in the drugstore, so they're questioning everybody that was in the drugstore that day.
That's awful. Did you happen to see him or something?
I said, is there something going on, something we need to talk about or anything? And he said, no, don't worry about it.
I just want to make sure you're okay.
He was trying to blow it off, but at the same time, voice.
Just let me know if you need anything.
That really worried me. That was the first time I think I got very, very concerned. A couple of days later, I get the phone call. 2 o'clock in the morning. And I know when the phone rings at that time, it cannot be good news. And it was a strange voice on the phone, one I didn't recognize. And he said, I'm your brother's lawyer. John has been arrested.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
Suspicion of murder. I was silent at first. I said, can I talk with John? And he said, let me see if they'll let you talk to him. So he did get the phone.
John, what are they talking about?
I said, did you kill somebody? And he said, yes. I've probably seen this picture a couple of times in the newspaper when they first booked him. And I can tell you that I hated this picture. And do you know why? Not because he's arrested on here and he's being booked in, because he's smiling. How can somebody have just been arrested for the murder of some missing boy? You can see he's laughing. How could you, as a human being, look at that and not hate him? I don't want to look at it. I don't have one of these anymore because I did tear the one I had up. So, oh, that's upsetting. Oh, I just might need a second. Each day it got worse and worse and worse, and we started dreading even turning on the news. And then they're talking about there could be more. I didn't want to live anymore. So I took a bottle of pills and took them all.
This morning, police searched Gacy's home and found the decomposed remains of 3 bodies in dirt crawl space under the house. They suspect there are several more bodies buried here.
It's creepy that we might have been in that house and there had been bodies buried under it. My first reaction was, did Mom and him buy a house that somebody buried bodies under? That was my very first reaction. Each day it got worse and worse and worse, because they weren't finished with their investigation.
Police today found 6 more bodies under the John Gacy house. The 6 bodies bring the total found under this house and garage to 15, all appearing to have been teenaged boys and young men.
That's when our life changed. All the lives that he took, all the families, he took their siblings or their sons away. We saw one side of him, and it wasn't that side of him.
The police have found, at last count, 27 bodies buried under his house and garage, and 2 more in a nearby river.
How can somebody do so well? Grew up with, we were born from the same mother, had the same father, and then do all of what he did. I asked that myself that so many times, and there's not an answer. There's not an answer.
When they paint the image that I was this monster who picked up like these altar boys along the street and swatted them like flies, I said, this is ludicrous.
I said, what do you mean you didn't do all this? How did all those bodies get under the house if you didn't do it? He said, I can show you who I knew. And he started pointing with his finger. These are the pictures that he was pointing to. And he literally pointed to faces in the newspaper saying, I didn't know this person, I didn't know that person, so how could I have killed them?
I have no knowledge of the crime whatsoever. Never have had. You wouldn't kill me, but you will have executed somebody that didn't commit the crime.
Do anything. Is that a mental problem? He's too sane for it to be a mental problem. How can you be insane 33 times? There was nothing insane about him. It was like a nightmare, just a total nightmare. We started getting phone calls, people threatening to harm our children, like in retaliation for what John had done. We couldn't let our kids go to school. We couldn't even go to work. We just couldn't face people day after day. And it's like, it's never ending. I kept thinking about the families, the family members of these boys. I can't explain the desperation, the hurt, the shame. You feel that you just can't go any further. It's sort of like going on a hill and you just know you just need to drop off. I didn't want to live anymore. So I took a bottle of pills and took them all.
It was a little after midnight, and I happened to get up because my son, he needed a bottle, and I went out to the kitchen.
Mom, what's wrong? Mom?
And my mother was leaning over the sink, and she had taken a bottle of pills.
Mom, what'd you do?
I was yelling at her. I was like, how many of these did you take? And she couldn't answer me. And she just kept saying, I just want to die. Just let me die. The only thing I knew to do was to call my dad. He took her to the emergency room, and they pumped her stomach.
It's not a time in my life that I am very proud of because I feel like I failed my children. If I had ended my life, what would have happened to them? I just couldn't take anymore. A lot of people ask me about the death sentence and what I feel about it. And when it came to John and his sentence, I think it more than fit the crime. It was like it wasn't even a shock to me. It was like, okay, yeah, I knew that. I wasn't even upset over it. We spent about an hour or so visiting John. He really didn't talk too much about the execution. He talked about what his last meal was going to be, what he was going to eat. This picture is of John and I, and you can see how he takes his handcuffs and kind of goes around me. And while it wasn't a happy time, we both were smiling, and I think it was out of love for one another. It's like you're not thinking about the crime. You're just thinking about he's going to die. And I was just trying to make his last hours more meaningful for him. Still trying to be the dutiful sister. It was killing me. I just said, I love you. Know that. And I did love him. I hated what he did. But I loved him as a brother. But I didn't love him as a brother that killed. I loved him as the brother that protected me all the way through my life until he did what he did. And that was it. I never heard or talked to him or saw him again.
John Wayne Gacy, it's time for you to die!
When we walked from the death house, they were setting up some tents and stuff in almost the front yard of the prison. That was really horrible because they're shouting out the windows at you.
Kill that clown! Kill that clown! Kill that clown!
I think that was probably worse than being there with John saying goodbye.
Good morning. John Wayne Gacy was pronounced dead at 12:58 a.m. His last words were in essence that taking his life would not compensate for the loss of the others, and he basically said that he saw this as a state murdering him, and he didn't think that would serve justice.
I'd never heard that. I don't remember hearing that at all. It makes me feel angry that he made that kind of statement. I mean, that blows me away. What about serving the families that he crushed? I don't know why he didn't say something about the families. I thought that's what he had said. It makes me ashamed of him. He made his peace with God, and it makes me know that he didn't make his peace with God. He wouldn't have said something like that. When I see this picture of John and my dad and his little son, I wish I could turn the clock back to that time. I could almost cry when I look at this picture. John looked content. He looked like a family man, but John was a master manipulator. There's no doubt in my mind about that. He acted just as normal as anyone sitting in this room, which is scary because it shows you never know anybody. You think you do, but you really don't.